Okay, we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and I think we are ready to go. All right, this, and that. Okay, hello everybody. So we're going to start our evening recitation of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. And first we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Guitar. And we'll chant for the deities again. Wish you can't see the deities too clearly from there. Let me move this. It's a little better. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Giri Vadodari Giri Vadodari Vijana Balaba Giri Vadodari Vadodari Yasodananda Jaya Janurandana Yasodananda Jaya Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Panachari Dayo Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Yamuna Tira Panachari Dayo Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Vichana Pallava Jaya Giri Vadodari Giri Vadodari Gopichana Pallava Jaya Giri Vadodari Giri Vadodari Yasodananda Jaya Braja Janarandana Yasodananda Jaya Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Panachari Dayo Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Yamuna Tira Panachari Dayo Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatakacharya, Osatera Satishi Shimad, His Divine Grace Savaya, Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem say, Go Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivas Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapanath Shyam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Munamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari 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 Bol. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prastaya Bhudle Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharani Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarni Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my divine spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Jai Prabhupada. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda, Jai Hrivo, Gauranga, Nityananda, Gauranga. Because as we heard last night, that if one simply says the names of Gauranga, Nityananda, one will come to the ecstatic platform, and there's no offenses in chanting the names of Gauranga and Nityananda. And if you just chant Hare Krishna and don't chant Gauranga and Nityananda, you will not achieve perfection. So, Gauranga Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Okay, let's go. Let's go to sharing our screen. I am sharing my screen with all of you. How merciful I am. So, here we go. So here we go. Just give me a second to get set up here so we can check on all of you while you're watching. Okay. All right, let's make that a little smaller. Okay, that's good. And one more thing. All right. All right. Perfectamente. Okay, perfect. Okay, so text 37, 8th chapter of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Adi Lila. Bhagavate Atta Bhakti Sirantera Sara Likiya Chena Ginha Jani Kariya Udara. In Sri Chaitanya Mangal, later known as Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is given the conclusion and essence of devotional service by quoting the authoritative statements of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, of course, the actual book, Chaitanya Mangal, is not written by Vrindavan Das Thakur, but Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat was originally called Chaitanya Mangal, and later on changed the name to Chaitanya Bhagavat. So Chaitanya Mangal, Shune, Yari Pashandi Yavana, Se Maha Vaishnava Haya. Wow, the Takshana. Wow, if even a great atheist hears Sri Chaitanya Mangal, he immediately becomes a great devotee. Chaitanya Bhagavad again. So just got to make that clear. Because the actual Chaitanya Mangal is written by Lochan Das Thakur. Anyway, because they did change the name since Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote the Caitanya Charitamrita. Manushe Rachite Narayache Grantadanya Vrindavana Dasa Mukhe Vakta Sri Chaitanya. The subject matter of this book is so sublime that it appears that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally spoken through the writings of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. So, Srila Sanatana Goswami has written in his Hari Bhakti Vilasa, Avaishnava Makokirnam Putam Hari Catamrtam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarvochistam Yata Payaha. One should not hear anything about Krishna from an odd Vaishnava. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. Similarly, talks about Krishna given by a non-Vaishnava are also poisonous. Heavy statement. Transcendental literature that strictly follows the Vedic principles in the conclusion of the Puranas and Pancharatriki Vidi can be written only by a pure devotee. It is not possible for a common man to write books on bhakti, for his writings will not be effective. He may be a very great scholar and may be expert in presenting literature in a flowery language, but this is not at all helpful in understanding transcendental literature. Even if transcendental literature is written in faulty language, it is accepted if it is written by a devotee, whereas so-called transcendental literature written by a mundane scholar, even if it is a very highly polished literary presentation, cannot be accepted. The secret in a devotee's writing is that when he writes about the pastimes of the Lord helps him. He does not write alone. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, text 10, I think you all know this. Vidami buddhiyogam tam yenamamopyanti te. It's also the beginning. It's Tesham satadyutanam bhajatam pritipurvikam. And then Vidami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Which means the last part is I give him the understanding by which he can come to me, or I give him the intelligence to perform yoga, etc., by which he can come to me. Mam upayanti te. But tesham satati yuktanam. For those who are always connected with me, satata yuktanam, bhajatam pritipurgama, connected with me how? With bhakti, with love. Then Krishna gives the understanding. Since a devotee writes in service of the Lord from within gives him so much intelligence that he sits down near the Lord and goes on writing books. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami confirms that what Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote was actually spoken by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he simply repeated it. The same holds true for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta in his old age, in an invalid condition. It's invalid, not invalid. But it is such a sublime literature that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj used to state, the time will come when the people of the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are trying to present Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita in English and do not know how successful it will be. But if one reads the original Chaitanya Charitamrita in Bengali, he will relish increasing ecstasy in devotional service. That's why I'm reciting the Bengali verses. Because it's poetry. Vrindavana dasa pade koti namaskara ache grantakari tenhok tari la sangsara. I offer millions of obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Narayani Chaitanyara Chista Bhajan Tanra garbe janmila Shri Dasa Vrindavana. Narayani eternally eats the remnants of the food of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born of her womb. So Narayani's husband died at a very early age, and she was actually, I believe, was in Srivas Thakur's house as a servant. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went there, he said to her, "Chant the holy names, Narayani." And Narayani started chanting and dancing in ecstasy, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave her his remnants. In text 43, the Gora Ganadesh Dipika, a book written by Kavi Karnapur that describes all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who they previously were, there is the following statement regarding Narayani. Ambikaya swasaya namna Srila Kilimbika Krishna Chishtam Prabhunjana Sayam Narayanti Mata. When Lord Krishna was a child, he was nursed by a woman named Ambika, who had a younger sister named Kilimbika. During the time of Lord Chaitanya's incarnation, the same Kilimbika used to eat the remnants of food left by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Kilimbika was Narayani, who was a niece of Srivas Thakur's. Later on, when she grew up and married, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was born from her womb. A devotee of Lord Sri Krishna is celebrated in terms of devotional service rendered to the Lord. Thus we know Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is the son of Narayani. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur notes in this connection that there's no reference to his paternal ancestry because there's no need to understand it. Wow. So there the mother was much more prominent. Wonderful. Tanra ki adbhuta Chaitanya Charita Varnana Yahara Shravane Shuddha Kaila Tribhuvana. What a wonderful description he's given of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone in the three worlds who hears it is purified. Otoiva Bhajya Loka Chaitanya Nityananda Kandivisam Saraduka Pade Pabe Premananda. I fervently appeal to everyone to adopt the method of devotional service given by Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda and thus be freed from the miseries of material existence and ultimately achieve the loving service of the Lord. So what was the method? You don't know. Harinama. Anyway. And Vaishnava Seva. And taking a lot of prasadam. I was just listening to a class of Srila Prabhupada this morning where a devotee asked Prabhupada, what if a devotee eats too much prasadam? Is that bad? Prabhupada said, it's not the best, but it's good. It's interesting. Vrindavana Dasa Kaila Chaitanya Mangala Tahate Chaitanya Lila Varnina Sakala. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written Sri Chaitanya Mangal and has therein described in all respects the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Sutra Kari Sabalila Karila Granthana Pache Vishtarya Tahara Kaila Vivarana. He first described all the pastimes of the Lord and later described them vividly in detail. Chaitanya Chandrera Lila Ananta Para Varnate Varnate Grantha Haila Vistara. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were unlimited and unfathomable. Therefore, in describing all those pastimes, the book became voluminous. It means it became too big. Vistara Dekya Kichu Sankocha Haila Mana Sutra Trita Konak Lila Nakaila Varnana. He saw them to be so extensive that he later felt that some had not been properly described. Nityananda Lila Varnana Haila Avesha Chaitanyara Shesha Lila Rahila Avashesha. He ecstatically described the pastimes of Lord Nityananda, but the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained untold. Se Sabalela Sunichunite Vivarana Vrindavanavasi Bhaktera Utkantita Manha. The devotees of Vrindavan were all very anxious to hear those pastimes. Wow. Vrindavane Kalpa Drume Suvarna Sanandana Mahayagapitatan Ratna Singhasana. In Vrindavan, in a great place of pilgrimage underneath the desire trees, is a golden throne bedecked with jewels. Wow. So there's a place right near Govardhan, right in the middle of the hill. The hill's underground at this particular place. It's called the Ratna Singhasana place. And the forest there is called Sham Kutir, which means dark kutir. And it's very, very isolated. Only those with special punya can go there. So sometimes I take the devotees there. It doesn't mean I have special punya. It means the devotees there have special punya. So I take the devotees there. We go through the bushes, through the trails, and suddenly we arrive at this place. And there's a Krishna's lotus footprints are there. There's a beautiful depiction on a rock of Radha and Krishna, and the place of the jeweled throne is there. And there's a pund there called Ratna Kund, means the jeweled Kund. So this is where it happened. The golden throne bedecked with jewels, where Radha and Krishna were. Tate vasayache sadavrajandra nandana Shri Govinda Deva Nama Sakshat Madana. On that throne sits the son of Nanda Maharaj, Shri Govinda Deva, the transcendental Cupid. Raja Seva Hayatanha, Vichitra Pakara, Divya Samagri, Divya Vastra, Alankara. Varieties of majestic service are rendered to Govinda there. His garments, ornaments, and paraphernalia are all transcendental. Sahasra Sevaka Seva Kare Anukshana, Sahasra Varane Seva Nayaya Varnana. In that temple of Govindaji, thousands of servitors also always render service to the Lord in devotion. Even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe this service. Sevara Adyaksha Shri Pandita Haridasa Tanra Yashaguna Sarva Jagate Prakasha. In that temple, the chief servitor was Sri Haridas Pandit. His qualities and fame are known all over the world. This is not Haridas Thakur, it's Haridas Pandit. So this Haridas Pandit was a disciple of Sri Anantacharya, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. Shuchilas Sahishnu Shanta Vadanya Gambhira Madhura Vachana Madhura Cheshta Mahadira. He was sweet, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words, and very sober in his endeavors. Sabara Samana Karita Karina Sabara Hita Akotilya Matsarya Hingsa Najane Tanra Chita. He was respectful to everyone and worked for the benefit of all. Diplomacy, envy, and jealousy were unknown to his heart. Krishnaraye Sadharana Sadguna Panchasha Se Sabagunera Tanra Sharire Nivasa. The 50 qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the transcendental qualities of Shri Krishna are mentioned. Among these, 50 are primary, Ayam Neta, Su Ramani Gaha, etc. And in minute quantity, they were all present in the body of Shri Haridas Pandit. Since every living entity is part of the Supreme Personality of God, and all 50 of these good qualities of Shri Krishna are originally minutely present in every living being. Due to his contact with material nature, these qualities are not visible in the conditioned soul. But when one becomes a purified devotee, they all automatically manifest themselves. This is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, as mentioned in the text below. Now, this is very interesting. Like Prabhupada would comment that sometimes his disciples would come in contact with other people or with other religious people in America. And these people would say, "Are you Americans?" And the reason they asked is because these devotees had an aura. For those of you who don't know what aura is, effulgence, and their good qualities became manifest. Like Prabhupada said, previously, before coming to Krishna consciousness, our good qualities, even our beauty, of course, we're a little old, ain't no more beauty, but anyway, youngness, beauty, even our beauty or handsomeness was covered. Just like you see someone who eats meat, someone who takes intoxication, someone who's in ignorance, it's just like, whoo. But the same person, when they give it up, it's like changing, according to Srila Goswami, it's like when bell metal can be changed by the action of mercury and other substances, can be changed to gold. It's amazing. And this happens according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I'm going to quote right now. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarva gunais tatra samasate sura aharava bhaktasya kuto mahad guna manoratena sati davato bhakihi. Okay. And one who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna, all the good qualities of Krishna, the demigods are consistently manifested. However, one who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by mental concoction of material existence, which is the external feature of the Lord. So, this is an interesting verse of the Gita. Mam chiyo vyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatuiti chaitan brahma bhuyaya kelpate. One who engages in unflinching devotional service, which is mentioned here, faith, then sagunan samati chaitan, he transcends the gunas, or the modes of nature. Because these modes of nature are what is covering us. And when someone doesn't transcend them, then you're actually seeing basically a filtering of his consciousness through the modes of nature. Yes, there's some consciousness there, it's complete ignorance, but there's a filtering. Let me give you an example of a light. When you have a light that has filters in front of it, you perceive the light differently. There's a limitation. There is a cutting down of the light and cutting down of different colors in the light if it happens to be a colored filter. Like if you have a blue filter, a white light looks blue. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you could have a white light and then you put a blue filter there and someone will say, what color light is that? That's blue. Someone will put a red filter. I say, that's red. Green. That's green. So that's the point. That what we are seeing with people is the filter of the modes of nature. And you can see that very easily. You take one particular individual, who's not a devotee, please do not criticize devotees. You take one particular individual and look at them throughout the day, depending on what they're doing, depending on what they're, especially someone who is not Krishna conscious. Okay. Let's take someone who drinks liquor. Okay. Drinks liquor. So they're the same person. Okay. Take them throughout the day. In the morning, they wake up grumpy as hell. Sorry for the French. Anyway, they wake up and so there's ignorance there. Then as they get up, they drink their coffee or whatever they do to get themselves awake in the morning. Then they become passionate. Then you see the red mode of passion. Okay, time to get to work. All right. And then throughout the day, they're in passion. And then the evening sets in. and they eat their flesh. Yuck. And they further immerse themselves in ignorance, and then they take a little or a lot of beer. Yuck. And their personality changes throughout the day. It's interesting. It changes, whereas a devotee's personality is always the same. I mean, they may show some emotions in certain circumstances if something happens like that, but they're very much predictable. They're not going to say, I am depressed now. No, because it's Sagunan Sumati Chaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So when you see qualities in someone who is not Krishna conscious, sometimes it appears they have good qualities because for some time the mode of goodness is becoming prominent because the filtering of the other modes becomes a little diminished for some time. Not for always, but for some time. Okay, so this is an explanation of this. First, I'm sure Srila Prabhupada will explain it more. Oh no, he doesn't explain more in this verse, in that particular place. Pandita Goswami Shisha Ananta Acharya Krishna Prema Maya Tanu Udara Sava Ardya. Anantacharya was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. His body was always absorbed in love of Godhead. He was magnanimous and advanced in all respects. Tanhara Anantaguna Ke Karu Prakasha. Tanra Priya Shishya Inha Pandita Haridasa. Haribol, I'm driving, so I had to go on Zoom. That's fine. We don't mind when you're on Zoom. Don't zoom around in your car too much. Anantacharya was a reservoir of all good qualities. No one can estimate how great he was. Pandita Haridasa was his beloved disciple. So he's showing the disciplic succession of Haridas Pandit, or Pandita Haridasa. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, that's his commentary, Sri Anantacharya is one of the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Previously, during the advent of Lord Shri Krishna, Anantacharya was Sudevi, one of the 8 gopis. This is stated in the Gaura Ganadesh Dipika 165 as follows. Anantacharya Goswami Ya Sudevi Pura Braje. That means before Anantacharya Goswami was Sudevi. So this Gaura Ganadesh Dipika was written by Kavi Karnapur, who analyzed many of the main personalities in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and said who they were in Krishna's pastimes previously. Anantacharya Goswami was formerly Sudevi Gopi. It's one of the principal gopis of the Ashtasakis in Braja, Vrindavan. In Jagannath Puri, or Purushottama Kshetra, there is a monastery known as the Ganga Mata Math, that was established by Anantacharya in the disciplic succession of Ganga Mata Math. He is known as Vinoda Manjari. One of his disciples was Haridas Pandit Goswami, who is also known as Sri Raghu Gopal and as Sri Rasa Manjari. His disciple Lakshmi Priya was the maternal aunt of Ganga Mata, a princess who was the daughter of the king of Putia. Ganga Mata brought a deity of the name Sri Rasikaraya from Krishna Mishra of Jaipur, installed him in the house of Sarvabhauma in Jagannath Puri. The disciple in the 5th generation after Sri Anantacharya was Sri Vanamali in the 6th. So actually this Ganga Mata was sometimes called Ganga Mata Goswami Ni. And there's so many wonderful stories about her that we'll tell on her appearance date. A wonderful, wonderful devotee. Very, very austere disciple of Haridas Pandit. In the 6th generation, Sri Bhagavan Das, who was a Bengali. In the 7th generation, Madhusudana Das, who was an Orya. That means from Orya. Oh, yes. In the 8th generation, Nilambara Das. In the 9th generation, Sri Narottama Das. In the 10th generation, Pitambara Das. And in the 11th generation, Sri Madhavadas, the disciple of the 12th generation, is presently in monastery. And in Radhakund, there's this beautiful little temple that was established by Gangamata Goswami. And it's actually Shamakund. Very beautiful place, near Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Bhajan Kutir, in fact. Near Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's Bhajan Kutir, near Raghunath Das Goswami's Bhajan Kutir, near the Manasa Pavana Ghat, near the tree that was considered an incarnation of Bhimsen, the strongest of the Pandavas. And anyway, I can start talking about Radhakund. Caitanya Nityananda Tanra Parama Vishvasa Chaitanya Charity Tanra Parama Ulasa. Pandita Haridas had great faith in Lord Chaitanya Nityananda, therefore he took great satisfaction in knowing about their pastimes and qualities. Vaishnavara Guna Grahi Na Dekhai Dosha Kayamano Vakye Kare Vaishnava Santosha. He always accepted the good qualities of Vaishnavas and never found fault in them. Wow, that's how we should be. He engaged his heart and his soul only to satisfy the Vaishnavas. It is a qualification of a Vaishnava that he is a doshadarshi, he never sees others' faults. Of course, every human being has both good qualities and faults. Therefore it is said, Sajjana gunam ichanti dosham ichanti pamaraha. Everyone has a combination of faults and glories, but a Vaishnava, a sober man, accepts only a man's glories and not his faults, for flies seek sores, whereas honeybees seek honey. Haridas Pandit never found fault with Vaishnava, but considered only his good qualities. Nirantara Shune Teno Chaitanya Mangala Tanhara Prasade Shunene Vaishnava Sakala. He always heard the reading of Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and all the other Vaishnavas used to hear it by his grace. Kataya Sabo Ujvalakare Yena Purna Chandra Nijagunamrite Vadaya Vaishnava Ananda. Like the full moon, he illuminated the entire assembly of Vaishnavas by speaking Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and by the nectar of his qualities, he increased their transcendental bliss. Wow. Teno ati kripakare agyakaila more agorangera shesha lila varnibara tare. By his causeless mercy, he ordered me to write about the last pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kashishvara Goshani Shisha Govinda Goshai Govindera Priya Sevaka Tanra Sama Nani. Govinda Goshani, the priest engaged in the service of Lord Govinda in Vrindavan, was a disciple of Kashishvara Goshani. There was no servant more dear to the Govinda deity. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, this is wonderful history, because you're actually getting a chance to associate with these different personalities by hearing about them. When you hear about a pure devotee, the pure devotee's presence actually becomes manifest in front of you through sound vibration. Kashishvara Goswami was one of the contemporaries of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was with the Lord in Jagannath Puri, also known as Kashishvara Pandit. He was a disciple of Ishwara Puri and the son of Vasudeva Bhattacharya, who belonged to the dynasty of Kanji Lala Kanu. His surname was Chaudhuri. His nephew, his sister's son, who was named Rudra Pandit, was the original priest of Vallavapura, which is situated about 1 mile from the Sri Ramapura railway station in the village of Chatara. Installed there are the deities of Radha Govinda and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kashishvara Goswami was a very strong man, and therefore when Lord Chaitanya visited the temple of Jagannath, he used to protect the Lord from the crowds. Another of his duties was to distribute prasadam to the devotees after kirtan. Now one thing is that Kashishvara Pandit and his godbrother Govinda And they were both godbrothers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because they were both initiated by Ishwara Puri. They were both sent to serve their godbrother by Ishwara Puri when Ishwara Puri was getting ready to leave this world. Now, there was little question of etiquette because you're really not supposed to take service from your godbrothers, or at least you shouldn't have your godbrothers or godsisters become your servants. However, there was an overriding principle. The overriding principle was the order of the spiritual master, because they were ordered by Ishwara Puri to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these two devotees, Kashishra and Govinda, actually became the personal servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur visited this temple at Balabhapura. At that time, the person in charge was a Shaivite. Ooh. Sri Shivachandra Chaudhary, who was the descendant of Kashishvara Goswami's brother. In Balabhapura, there was a permanent arrangement to cook 9 kilos of rice, vegetables, and other foodstuffs daily, and near the village there is sufficient land which belonged to the deity in which this rice was grown. Unfortunately, the descendants of Kashishvara Goswami's brother have sold a major portion of this land, and therefore the deity worship has now been hampered. And this has happened in quite a few places in India. See, originally, when these temples were established, the temples were established with an arrangement so the Seva Puja could go on. Seva Puja means the service of the deities. Puja means the worship service of the deities could go on. So therefore, there was a sort of endowment. And for those of you who don't know what endowment is, usually nowadays it means money. You put some money in the bank account, and that stays there, and the deed is maintained by the interest of the money. But in what was done traditionally was not with money, but with land and buildings like that. And the rents from the land, or the rents from the building, or the profits from the buildings would actually be used to maintain the deities. And so in Vrindavan, basically most of Vrindavan town was owned by the deities. And it's interesting, in India, you can actually have on the land deed, the owner is God. Krishna, of course. Who else? I don't think of anybody else I would call God. Maybe Lord Vishnu, Lord Nrsimhadev, but same person. So anyway, so the deed of the land was actually in the name of God. But unfortunately, you had these families, of course in Vrindavan they were called Goswami families. It was a typical family name. It's not that they were sannyasis, because if you're a sannyasi, you're not going to have a family. That's pretty self-evident. So there are these families, in order to support themselves, they actually started selling off the property of the deities. And gradually the property of the deities diminished, and in Vrindavan you'll see that, Loy Bazaar used to belong to the deities, like the Radha Damodar temple. And that was the arrangement the Goswamis made. The Goswamis were actually quite practical. It's not that they just, said, oh, Krishna has to maintain the temple, and then they went away, they left this world. No. They made all these practical arrangements. Let's just see about Jiva Goswami. And Radhakund, his name is on so many of the deeds in different places in Radhakund. But later on, people, for various reasons, sort of negated these arrangements that the Goswamis of Vrindavan had made, and others had made, like Kashishvara Goswami's brother had made. So I'm very unfortunate because of family necessities. That's why generally the family necessities should not be mixed with the worship of the deities. In other words, one should not get salary. Because once you have a salary or you're getting money for your service, your motivation becomes mixed. It becomes mixed. You can no longer have like a Brahminical outlook on things because the money situation, like a Brahmin, he has to be doing his Brahminical work, not with the idea that he'll get paid, or not with the idea that if he does something wrong. He won't get paid. Like our example of Chanakya Pandit. He wasn't getting paid, and he was the most powerful prime minister under Maharaj Gupta, sorry. And when he disagreed with the king, he just left. Goodbye. I don't need your money. So we see in the American government, at least, because people are just so much attached to their positions, they engage in lying and cheating and denial of reality. Ooh, cognitive dissonance. Not really cognitive dissonance, because they know they're lying and cheating, and they deny reality just because they want to keep their positions and the money and the prestige and everything like that. Very bad. So it is said that Gaura Ganadesh Tipika, that the servant of Krishna in Vrindavan named Bringara descended at Kashishra Goswami during the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In our household or life, we also sometimes visited this temple of Vallabhapura and took prasadam there at noon. Wow. The deities of this temple, Shri Shri Radhagovinda and the Gauranga Vigraha, are extremely beautiful. Near Vallabhapura is a beautiful temple of Jagannath. We sometimes used to take prasadam in this Jagannath temple also. These two temples are situated within a 1 mile radius of the Sri Ramapura railway station near Calcutta. There's beautiful information about some of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. Yadavacharya Goswami Shri Rupera Sangi Chaitanya Charate Tenho Atibada Rangi. Sri Radhavacharya Goswami was a constant associate of Sri Rupa Goswami. Was also very enthusiastic in hearing and chanting about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Pandita Goswami Goswanira Shisha Garba Goswami Gorakata Vina Aramuki Anya Nai. Garba Goswami, a disciple of Pandita Goswami, was always engaged in topics regarding Lord Chaitanya, knowing nothing else. Tandra Shisha Govinda Pujakad Chaitanya Dasa Mukunda Nanda Chakravarti Prani Krishna Dasa. Among his disciples were Chaitanya Das, who was a priest of the Govinda deity, as well as Mukunda Nanda Chakravarti and the great devotee Krishna Das. Acharya Goshanira Shisha Chakravarti Shivananda Niravari Tanrachite Chaitanya Nityananda. Among the disciples of Anantacharya was Shivananda Chakravarti, in whose heart Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda constantly dwelled. Now, it's actually very important for us to hear about all these great Vaishnavas. Not only are we associated with them, but it actually increases our faith, because this is an historical document. And so when you hear about where these pastimes took place, where these people lived, how they're related, sometimes Prabhupada will talk about how they're near a particular railway station or a particular part of Calcutta or a particular part of East Bengal. It really cements the idea that this is real, and it increases the faith. I remember reading this for the first time years and years ago. Years and years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but a lot of years ago. And I was just feeling so happy to hear about the practical descriptions, down to earth, so to speak, descriptions of Lord Chaitanya's associates. Because it really brings it down to earth to our level. Although these particular personalities are not at our level. Okay, one more verse. Arayata Vrindavane Vaisha Bhakta Gana Chesha Lila Shunite Savara Hailamana. In Vrindavan, there were also many other great devotees, all of whom desired to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is making the point that these devotees requested to hear the last pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and he did this because it was the desire of the Vaishnavas. He wanted to please the Vaishnavas, and that's why he composed this particular literature called the Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta. Okay, we are finished with our reading, and now we will stop sharing the screen, and we will give a chance to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis and Prabhus and Pravis and whoever else demons, demonies, to ask a question. Uh-oh, Prangovinda again. All right, not you, Prangovinda. Let someone else come.
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Rakesh. Always Rakesh or Prangovinda. Okay, you get one question, Rakesh.
Okay, Gurudev, you just earlier today talked about having filters and transcendenting the mode of nature. So I'm just wondering, how do you know when we are putting a filter on or when we have transcendented that? Like,
Mamchiyo vyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati jaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. We know when we've transcended the modes. What is that? Nashochati nakangshati. Brahma bhuta prasanatma. Nashochati nakangshati. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu mahad bhakti lavate param. You've transcended the modes of nature when you come to the Brahma Bhuta platform. Prasanatma. You are happy all the time. And then what? The Shochati Nakangshati. You know what that means?
no
It
more.
means not hankering for anything nor lamenting. Just like today, uh, I was informed we had a special car because I'm going somewhere tomorrow. We'll still have this class, don't worry. And we had a special car lined up that I was looking forward to going in for tomorrow's trip. And then I was informed it's not possible. I'm not going to tell you the details, but it was not possible. So I'm not lamenting. If I was lamenting, I wouldn't be on the Brahma Buddha platform. I'm not saying I am on the Brahma Buddha platform, but the one's in the material platform, one is lamenting. What is lamenting? Like okay, I don't know if I should get into this today. Anyway, lamenting of what I lost, basically what I lost. Oh, he was my love, or she was my love. And that's lamenting. And hankering means I want, I want, I want. Or let's say with me, practically, I want a new computer, I want a new this, a new that. A new body. I don't want a new body. No, no, not right now. Krishna make the body, this body younger. No, don't ask for that. You know, if I ask for that, you got to be careful what you ask Krishna for, because if I say Krishna make this body younger, then all of a sudden you'd see a little baby there in front of the camera, and that wouldn't be so appropriate. No, Krishna, whatever you want, I accept, I surrender. So, anyway, so not hankering or lamenting for anything, that's the Brahma Buddha. If you're not on the Brahma Buddha platform, that's all right. Just be honest about it. I'm not on the Brahma Buddha platform. I need this, and this, and this, and this. And therefore, the modes of nature are still affecting me. It's better if one's honest. The modes of nature, I'm lamenting. Oh no, I gave my youth to Krishna, and what did I get for it? You know, here I am, 71, going on 72. Said, oh, I joined the Krishna consciousness movement at 20, and now it's over 50 years or 50 years later. And what did I get for it? I'm not rich. I have an old body. What else? Uh, anyway, no family. Oh my God. I've served Krishna all these years, and look what I could have had. It's too late. That's lamentation. Because I'm not lamenting. I'm happy. I made the right choices. And then hankering means you want something. So, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, this is Bhagavad Gita. Prasanatma Shokshati Nakangshati Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Lavate Param. This way, one knows if one's on the Brahma Bhuta platform or above the modes of nature. And then you see things as they are. Another symptom is to see one underlying spiritual nature in spite of everyone having a different body. Vidya vidya sampane brahmani gavihastane shuni chaiva supake cha pandita samadarshana. You see equally learned, gentle Brahmin, an outcast, all these different entities you see equally. Pandita samadarshana. So anyway, I'm sure, I know there's a lot of other verses, but that's how you know that you transcended the modes of nature. And you're always, main thing is you're always joyful and you're not hankering for anything. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
That's the symptom. The symptom. And you can hear your rounds and you're ecstatic. It'd be nice to transcend the modes of nature. But the reason we're not transcending them is because we're attached to them. We like the modes. We're attached to our moods. Sometimes I equate the word modes with moods. Everybody knows what a mood is. Mood means people have different moods. Like, I'm in a bad mood today. I'm in a good mood today. It's the same thing. That's why I said everybody you could see, they're affected throughout the day with different modes. And sometimes you don't know what you're dealing with. Let's say when you come across someone who you know very well, and you just like want to double check to make sure they're in a good mood right now. Are you all right, Prabhu? You know, you look at them. I always do that before I approach someone. I always look at their face and say, is this a good time to talk to them? And sometimes it's just, stay away. Stay away. Okay. They're in a Putina mood. You know who Putina? You know who Putina is? Putina was a beautiful girl who tried to kill Krishna. Okay, that's enough questions from you, Rakesh, and let's try to avoid Pran Govinda tonight if we can. Who else wants to ask a question? Uh-oh. Please, someone ask a question. So, all right. No one's asking a
Mila
question?
Mataji wants to ask a question.
Who does?
Me.
Oh, Mataji. Oh, sorry. Pravi.
Whatever. So it's interesting that a lot of the pure devotees in the Shastra will present themselves as being under the modes of nature.
Yeah.
You know, like Vasudeva, when Krishna appeared, he said, how astonishing it is that I'm a conditioned soul under the modes of nature, but the Lord has appeared in my home.
Right.
And, you know, I've gotten this question many times and I've wondered about it myself. I mean, if somebody's Brahmabhuta, they know they're Brahmabhuta. They know that. And so how is it? I mean, Mara Yudhisthira also says something similar to that. You know, we're just under the modes of nature. We're conditioned souls. And it seems kind of odd that they would know that they're always joyful and not hankering and not lamenting and seeing everyone equally. I mean, Brahmin realized people definitely know they're Brahmin realized.
Yes, but there's something called Yoga Maya. You've heard of that before?
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yoga Maya means they're in Krishna's pastimes. So because they're in Krishna's pastimes, then they're acting a part, or actually not just acting, they're method actors in a part. They're fully absorbed in a particular part, even though they're completely pure devotees. And also there's spiritual lamentation and spiritual hankering too. I mean, when you talk about the Bhavas, like, you know, Vyabhachari Bhavas, Sanchari Bhavas, whatever, then there's many external symptoms. I mean, like, for example, okay, let's take the example of Madhavendra Puri when he was leaving the planet. And he appeared to be lamenting that he had not reached spiritual perfection, right? He said, I have not reached Mathura. And of course, he had his best disciple, Ramchandra Puri, gave him some good advice. He said, his topmost disciple, Ramchandra Puri, said to him, just basically that same verse, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakankshati, just meditate on Brahman, Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj at that time became so angry. So I think these are, sometimes the spiritual emotions will masquerade as what we may see externally as material hankering or material lamentation. And that's the way Ramchandra Puri saw it. And, like even the gopis, you see them hankering and lamenting a lot. And so, and I think one of the qualities, and I don't think, I know, one of the qualities of a pure devotee is the extreme humility. Because when one is another point is when one is a uttama adhikarya, means, topmost pure devotee, they're seeing everybody else as a devotee except for themselves. Because it's like extreme humility. I mean, I'm not claiming to know it, because I've never experienced humility except when I feel myself to be humble. then, then I experience humility. Anyway, whatever. So, so it's one of the symptoms. It's actually a bhava, extreme humility. And that bhava becomes demonstrated by these statements that the acharyas make, or by Vasudev, sorry, not Vasudev. That Vasudev makes, and other personalities make. And, even Srila Prabhupada, he would sometimes make these statements of humility. I guess I'm an ordinary person, just following the order of my spiritual master. And yes, they're always joyful. But their joy is interesting. The joy of a pure devotee, like the gopis, you could say they're always joyful, but they're experiencing extreme pain too, in separation from Krishna. But their pain is joy. I don't ask me to explain it. I'm not on the level of being able to explain that. Like they say, the gopis said, of course, this is in the last chapter of the Ansha Lila, that if it gives Krishna happiness, if my misery gives Krishna happiness, I'm paraphrasing, then my misery is my happiness. So who can understand? Also, the statement is nobody can understand the mind of a pure devotee. At least I can't. So, and then under Yoga Maya, they're playing a role, like I said in the beginning. They're playing a particular role. Mahatmanas tumam partha, daivam prakriti mashrita, bhajantyunanya madaso, yatva bhutadama. The Mahatmas, they're always under the Daiva Prakriti, and part of that is Yoga Maya. So, under Yoga Maya, they think of themselves as an ordinary person. Otherwise, how could the pastimes take place? How could Vasudev's pastimes take place? I mean, it would be inconceivable without the Yogamaya potency. Hope that helps a little bit. I mean, I don't have much realization. I'm just a materialistic rascal begging Krishna to take this sinner weeping and weeping to his lotus feet. Mama Navedana Shuno Vishaya Durjana. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur prays. That's my humility for today. So, Mr. Gopal, you have a question.
Yes, Gurudev.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning Yogamaya in regards to Vasudev and Yudhishthir.
Yeah.
Then you brought up a third example of Madhavendra Puri, which ostensibly doesn't seem to be within Krishna's pastimes, or at least external pastimes to the world.
What's
So
that? He is within Krishna's presence. What are you talking about?
at least it wasn't at a time when Krishna was externally appearing and
That's right.
performing.
That's right. But it is Krishna's pastimes. It's Krishna's extended pastimes.
Yeah. But of course, we can say that about Srila Prabhupada, and we can even say
Yes,
that
it
about.
is. Oh, yeah. It's Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Prabhupada.
So within ISKCON, or within the Gaudiya Vaishnava family, how do we discriminate between when someone is actually in Maya, or they may claim, well, this is just my pastime, Yogamaya?
They won't say this is just my pastime, Yogamaya. Because we have to ask our Guru Maharaj and the Vedic literatures. Because you have such a nice background, I'm putting mine in opposition to yours.
Opposites attract, Gurudev.
So actually, it looks pretty good.
On the screen, yes.
All right. Let me. I definitely have to ask Pran Govinda to say something. I would feel real guilty if I didn't let him speak. Okay, Pran Govinda, ask your question. Is he there? Oh my God, I must have heard him. Oh my God, I have to apologize to him. Pran Govinda, you there? No? Oh my God. Now I feel guilty. All right, so someone else have a question? Anybody else? If not, we were going to end.
Could you speak a little more on the actual discrimination between Mahamaya and Yogamaya so we can recognize what we see?
Well, Mahamaya, they both have you forget who you are. But
wish I could.
Mahamaya takes you away from Krishna, and Yogamaya takes you to Krishna. How about that? Now I'm back at my house. So Mahamaya takes you to Krishna, away from Krishna. And Yogamaya helps you remember Krishna, but not be aware of your ontological position or even Krishna's ontological position, so you can interact with him in a very intimate way and have pastimes. Does that sound right? Okay, I think it's time to end. Well, I hope I didn't offend Pran Govinda. I don't think so. You probably have to leave. Tomorrow, I'll let him have first dibs at asking questions because I feel guilty now. I didn't let him ask questions. Okay, we'll see everybody tomorrow evening.